Hey guys, stop repeating those hollow morning affirmations to your bathroom mirror because deep down, you know they are not working. You are probably suffering from a severe case of self-help fatigue, exhausted by an endless parade of 10-step morning routines, toxic positivity, and life hacks that promise to magically fix your existence. The truth is, when real life actually hits you hard, when you are unexpectedly laid off from your job, navigating a brutal divorce, or just sitting gridlocked on the interstate burning through your limited patience and gasoline, no motivational quote overlaid on a picture of a sunset is going to save you. We live in a chaotic, turbulent world completely filled with massive social shifts, political instability, and day-to-day unpredictability. You do not need another temporary band-aid or a superficial life hack to cope with all of this. What you actually need is a robust, reality-based philosophy of life. Enter Stoicism. Now, forget the modern internet caricature you might have seen, the one that turns this ancient wisdom into a toxic, hyper-masculine trend where you are supposed to suppress every single emotion and act like a cold, unfeeling robot. Real Stoicism, the kind developed over 2,300 years ago and practiced by Roman emperors, enslaved individuals, and politicians, is something entirely different. It is an operating system for human beings who want to deal with the world exactly as it is, not as they hopelessly wish it would be. As evolutionary biologist and philosopher Massimo Pigliucci points out, the Stoics are nothing if not hardcore realists about human existence. They recognized from the very beginning that as biological organisms, we only have a strictly limited amount of physical and emotional energy to spend every single day. If you insist on throwing that precious energy at things you absolutely cannot control, you are only going to make yourself utterly miserable and useless to the people around you. You cannot just blindly pull a random self-help book off the shelf and expect a quick fix. Nor can you cobble together a messy, incoherent patchwork of internet advice and expect it to hold up under the immense crushing weight of a real human crisis. Stoicism offers a deeply coherent, unified framework that is so practically effective, it actually served as the direct foundational blueprint for cognitive behavioral therapy back in the 1960s. It teaches us that fundamentally, humans are highly intelligent, reasonable, and intensely social creatures. Our ultimate goal is not to accumulate a massive bank account, unlock the secret to endless pleasure, or become famous, but to actually become a genuinely good, rational human being who contributes to the social fabric. Think of it as a serious mental workout, a daily practice that demands deliberate effort rather than a cheap shortcut. The Stoics understood that we all have to juggle multiple demanding roles simultaneously. Whether you are trying to be a reliable parent, a supportive spouse, a dedicated friend, or a hard-working colleague clocking in 40 hours a week, you simply cannot afford to drain your psychological battery getting intensely outraged by every little thing outside of your immediate control. Like screaming at the evening news or agonizing over unpredictable economic markets. When you waste your bandwidth on those uncontrollable external events, you have absolutely nothing left in the tank for the people who actually need you the most. That is why this philosophy is not a retreat from reality, but rather a strategic reallocation of your personal power. It demands that you wake up, look at the completely messy, imperfect reality of your life, and take absolute ownership of the only real territory you have any genuine authority over, which is your own mind and your own deeply considered actions. Let us talk about the absolute worst thing that has happened to this ancient philosophy in the modern era of the internet. If you have spent any time browsing social media lately, you have probably seen a very specific and highly distorted caricature of what a practitioner of this philosophy is actually supposed to be. It is usually accompanied by a black and white picture of a marble statue, or a muscular man looking intensely into the distance. This is what evolutionary biologist and philosopher Massimo Pigliucci brilliantly calls the broification of the philosophy. It is this toxic, hyper-masculine fantasy that tells you a strong human being is someone who completely buries their feelings, never reacts to anything, and basically walks through life like a cold, unfeeling robot. People pushing this false narrative will even try to sound incredibly smart by pointing out that the Latin word for virtue shares a root with the word for man. But they are completely missing the historical truth. The original framework is a Greek philosophy, not a Roman one, and the original Greek word they used was arete. Arete simply means excellence. It has absolutely nothing to do with being a tough guy or suppressing your humanity. It just means doing the absolute best you can with the circumstances you are given. And it is an entirely gender-neutral concept. In fact, the ancient founders explicitly wrote that women are exactly as rational and capable of practicing deep philosophy as men are, which was a deeply radical idea 2,000 years ago. So we need to throw that whole macho internet myth into the garbage right now. The second massive lie you need to stop believing is the idea that you are supposed to suppress your emotions. People falsely think practicing this mindset means you just take whatever awful things happen to you and you never shed a tear or raise your voice. But modern cognitive science, backed up by advanced imaging of the human brain, proves that the ancient thinkers were actually completely right about how our minds work. They intuitively understood that your emotions, which originate in a part of your brain called the amygdala, and your logical reasoning, which happens in your frontal lobes, are massively interconnected. There are literally billions of neuronal fibers firing back and forth between those two areas every single second. Because of this biological reality, there is literally no such thing as an emotional response that is completely independent of the way you think. And you cannot suppress your emotions unless you physically remove a piece of your own brain. Instead of trying to hopelessly bury your feelings, the actual goal is to talk to your emotions using your reason. You use your logical brain to reframe the situation so that your emotional brain can naturally calm down. And finally, letting go of the things you cannot control does not mean you become a passive doormat who just lets people walk all over you. Acceptance is not the same thing as surrender. The original practitioners of this philosophy were not quiet, passive people hiding in their bedrooms. They were Roman senators, military generals, and active citizens who passionately fought for justice and personal liberty. When someone like the historical figure Cato the Younger saw a leader turning into a tyrant and destroying the Republic, He did not just sit back and accept it passively. He literally organized an army and went to work to defend freedom. You are supposed to accept the reality of the world as it is, but that completely includes taking fierce, deliberate action to make things better whenever it is actually within your power to do so. So if you are not supposed to just suppress your emotions and sit there like a rock, what exactly are you supposed to do when everything starts falling apart? You use the absolute sharpest tool in this ancient toolkit, which is the practice of violently separating everything in your life into two distinct buckets. The ancient teacher Epictetus called this the dichotomy of control. Modern self-help gurus want you to believe that if you just manifest hard enough and visualize your success, the universe will magically hand you whatever you want. That is a completely exhausting and dangerous fantasy. The Stoics offer something far more reliable. Let us say you have a massive, career-defining job interview tomorrow morning. The typical advice is to stand in front of a mirror, strike a power pose, and repeat that the job is already yours. The Stoic approach is to sit down at your kitchen table, pull out a piece of paper, and draw a heavy line right down the middle. On the left side, you write down the things that are actually up to you. You can meticulously research the company, you can iron your shirt, and you can try your absolute best to get a solid 8 hours of sleep. Notice the word try, because even your sleep is not entirely under your control. Your neighbor might decide to throw a massive, incredibly loud party at 2 in the morning. You can plan to leave your house an hour early, but actually arriving on time is out of your hands because Interstate 95 might turn into a complete parking lot, or your train might mysteriously stop in the middle of the dark transit tracks. Now look at the right side of the paper. This is the bucket of things completely outside of your control. The hiring manager might have had a terrible argument with their spouse that morning and is now in a profoundly foul mood. Another candidate might simply have 10 more years of experience than you do. You cannot control any of that. If you burn your limited psychological battery worrying about the right side of that list, you will have absolutely zero energy left to actually perform well in the interview. You have to ruthlessly cut off your emotional attachment to the outcome and obsess exclusively over your own preparation. This brutal reframing works for daily annoyances too. Imagine a coworker throws a nasty, passive-aggressive insult at you during a meeting. Your immediate biological instinct is to feel a massive rush of adrenaline. Let your face get hot and lash out, but pause and analyze the reality of the situation like a scientist. What exactly is an insult? It is literally just another human being pushing oxygen out of their lungs, vibrating their vocal cords, and sending invisible sound waves across the conference room toward your ears. That is it. It is just air moving around the room. Those sound waves cannot physically cut you or break your bones. The only reason you feel pain is because you are actively choosing to interpret those vibrations as a personal attack. You are doing the damage to yourself. If the coworker is actually right about their criticism, then you should rationally accept the feedback and fix your mistake. If they are completely wrong, then they are just embarrassing themselves, and their delusion has absolutely nothing to do with your reality. When you master this specific technique of reframing, You stop leaking precious mental energy on other people's problems. You build an absolute fortress around your mind, taking all of that conserved power and laser focusing it entirely on the few things you actually own, which are your own thoughts, your own deliberate choices, and your own physical actions. Now that you have built this mental fortress and understand how to separate what you control from what you do not, you need a highly reliable daily system to actually maintain it. The typical modern self-help advice will tell you that at the end of a long, stressful day, you need to sit on a comfortable cushion, light an incredibly expensive candle, completely empty your mind, and chant positive affirmations until you magically feel better. The ancient Stoics would look at that and probably laugh. They did not believe in escaping reality or forcing yourself to feel a false, temporary sense of peace. Instead, they believed in facing your messy, imperfect day head-on through a rigorous practice called philosophical journaling. This is absolutely not a traditional diary exercise where you write down what you had for lunch or wallow in your personal feelings. It is a completely objective, almost clinical review of your own daily behavior. The most famous historical example of this comes from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He wrote a famous text called Meditations, which was never actually meant to be published or read by anyone else in the entire world. It was literally his own private notebook where he aggressively criticized his own actions, managed his significant anger issues, and figured out how to deal with incredibly difficult, annoying people. He would often write to himself in the second person, saying things like, "You got unnecessarily angry at this politician today. Why did you do that?" Modern psychological studies have actually proven that this specific technique of writing to yourself, as if you are talking to a distant friend, creates vital emotional distance and helps you analyze a volatile situation without getting instantly defensive. So how do you actually execute this tonight? You wait until the very end of the day when the house is quiet, perhaps while you are sitting in your living room. You open a physical notebook or a blank document on your tablet, and you pick one specific stressful incident that happened to you that day. Maybe that same passive-aggressive coworker we talked about earlier made another rude comment, and this time, you actually lost your temper and snapped back at them. You write down exactly what happened without using any dramatic or emotional language. You strip away the outrage and just look at the raw physical facts. Then, you ask yourself 3 extremely specific questions. First, what did I do wrong? The goal here is absolutely not to feel guilty, wallow in regret, or punish yourself. The Stoics knew that whatever happened is already in the past, and you cannot change it under any circumstances. You are simply identifying the technical error. Second, what did I do right? You desperately need to acknowledge the things you handled well so you can continue doing them. Maybe you yelled at the coworker, but you successfully stopped yourself from sending a highly unprofessional email to the Human Resources Department afterward. That is a tangible win. Third, and this is the absolute most important question of the entire exercise, what could I do differently next time? Human beings are incredibly predictable creatures. That exact same coworker is almost certainly going to say another deeply annoying thing to you next Tuesday. Your afternoon commute on Interstate 95 is going to turn into a miserable parking lot again next week. Since you absolutely know these events are going to happen, you use this journal to literally script your future response. You write down exactly how you will react with cool, calculated reason instead of blind emotion the next time you face this exact trigger. By doing this daily practice, you are not hoping the world magically becomes an easier, softer place to live in. You are actively training your brain to be prepared, and a prepared mind does not break down or panic when the real world inevitably throws total chaos in its direction. When you finally commit to this daily practice of examining your actions and preparing your mind for the inevitable chaos of reality, you begin to reach the ultimate endgame of this ancient philosophy, which is genuine psychological maturity. The modern self-help industry constantly infantilizes you by insisting that if you just want something badly enough, the entire universe will magically align to give it to you. That is a comforting lie that keeps you trapped in a state of constant disappointment. The ancient Stoics demanded that we grow up and absolutely stop begging the world to revolve around our personal preferences. The philosopher Epictetus used a brilliant metaphor for this exact delusion, calling it pining for figs in winter. Imagine walking out into the freezing snow in late January, staring at a barren tree, and becoming furiously angry that it is not handing you fresh, ripe fruit. You would look completely insane. Yet, that is exactly what you're doing every single time you lose your mind over the fact that another driver cut you off on the highway, or that your flight out of Chicago was delayed by a massive thunderstorm, or that a coworker acted completely selfishly. You are demanding summer fruit in the dead of winter. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius explicitly reminded himself that expecting human beings not to do incredibly stupid, annoying, or hurtful things is to demand that the world be something it is fundamentally not. The world is heavily populated by flawed, difficult people and completely unpredictable events. Once you fully accept this unfiltered reality, a massive weight lifts off your shoulders. You stop fighting the fundamental nature of existence, and you start working with it. But you must understand that this profound mental shift does not happen just because you watched a video or read a translated book from 2,000 years ago. Stoicism is absolutely not a quick life hack or a temporary rush of motivation. As the ancient teachers pointed out, it is exactly like walking into a physical gymnasium. You can listen to a fitness trainer expertly explain the precise mechanics of lifting a 50-pound dumbbell, and you can understand the concept perfectly in your intellectual mind. But you will not build a single ounce of actual muscle until you walk over to the rack, pick up the heavy iron, and do the exhausting physical work yourself day after day. You have to actively build your psychological muscles through constant, deliberate repetition. The ultimate destination of all this incredibly hard work is not to become a famously wealthy entrepreneur, or to achieve some mystical state of permanent bliss, or to detach yourself coldly from the people you love. The real goal, the true life worth living that these ancient philosophers talked about, is simply to become a highly rational, deeply resilient, and genuinely good human being who actively contributes to the social fabric of the real world. It is about realizing that while you cannot control the turbulent storms of life, you absolutely own the ship and you are the only one steering the wheel. So throw away the superficial vision boards, Stop repeating those empty morning affirmations and put down the toxic positivity manuals. Grab a notebook, look completely honestly at your own flawed actions, clearly define the very few things you actually control, and start doing the heavy mental lifting today. The chaotic world is waiting for you to finally show up as the strong, prepared, and profoundly reasonable adult you were always capable of becoming. Now that you are committed to doing this heavy mental lifting and showing up as a reasonable adult, we have to immediately crush one of the most baffling and dangerous misconceptions about this entire philosophy. There is a completely false idea floating around that practicing this ancient wisdom somehow turns you into a passive, quiet doormat who just sits back and lets the world walk all over them. People mistakenly believe that because you are working so hard to accept the things you absolutely cannot control, you are somehow supposed to surrender to every terrible thing that happens and completely isolate yourself from society. That is absolute nonsense, and it completely contradicts both the written texts and the actual historical lives of the people who founded this framework. Acceptance of reality never means cowardly surrender. In fact, liberty, personal freedom, and profound independence are absolute core values of this system. If you look back at history, the people who lived by these principles were not hiding in their bedrooms doing breathing exercises while society collapsed around them. They were actively speaking truth to power and risking their lives to fight genuine tyranny. Take the historical figure Cato the Younger, for example. When he watched Julius Caesar actively dismantling the Roman Republic and turning into a dangerous tyrant, Cato did not just calmly reframe the situation in his journal and go to sleep. He aggressively opposed Caesar on the Senate floor for years. When the time for political debate was completely over and Caesar literally marched an army against the Republic, Cato organized his own army to actively fight back and defend the freedom of his people. He was fiercely dedicated to justice, and he completely refused to compromise his deepest moral principles even when he faced absolute defeat. That is the ultimate proof that this mindset is about intense, calculated resistance against real injustice, not passive compliance. Today, in the 21st century, you are probably not going to need to raise a physical army and march into a literal civil war. But you are absolutely going to face massive societal challenges. We are currently living through turbulent times filled with extreme political instability, rapid social changes, and the looming threat of global climate disasters. When you look at these massive, terrifying issues, you do not just shrug your shoulders and give up. You apply the exact same mental framework of the dichotomy of control that you use for your daily personal problems. You pull out your mental piece of paper and make your two lists. You have to rationally accept that you cannot single-handedly lower the temperature of the global climate. And you cannot force a corrupt politician to suddenly start making highly ethical decisions. Those outcomes are fundamentally completely outside of your direct individual control. However, you have massive power on the left side of that list. You can choose to vote. You can donate your hard-earned money to effective organizations. You can organize your local community. And you can march in the streets to demand necessary changes. You take these massive, deliberate actions precisely because you recognize that you are a deeply social creature and that every other human being on this planet is fundamentally your brother and your sister. You fight fiercely for what is right. You do the absolute best you can with the resources you have. And then you completely detach your ego from the final, unpredictable outcome. That is how you aggressively push the world in a better direction without completely losing your own mind and destroying your psychological health in the process. Now that we have established that this philosophy requires fierce, deliberate action and absolutely does not turn you into a passive doormat who just surrenders to the world, we need to address the other massive lie sold to us by the modern self-improvement industry. If you look at almost any popular life coaching seminar or motivational book today, the ultimate promised goal is always heavy material success. They want to teach you how to magically manifest a massive six-figure salary, buy a gigantic house in the suburbs, and accumulate as much shiny luxury as humanly possible. But the ancient practitioners of this philosophy looked at material wealth in a completely different and far more realistic way. They called things like money, social reputation, and even physical health preferred indifference. The word indifferent here does not mean that you simply do not care if you live in a nice warm house or a freezing cardboard box on the street. Of course, as a biological organism, you naturally prefer to be comfortable. The wealthy Roman senator Seneca famously noted that he was not stupid, and he absolutely preferred having money over being completely broke, and being healthy over being sick. But the crucial difference is that a true practitioner completely understands that none of these external things actually define your core character. Having a massive bank account does not automatically make you a good, rational, or genuinely virtuous human being. As the ancient teacher Epictetus brilliantly pointed out, saying, "I am richer than you, therefore I am a better human being than you," is a complete logical fallacy. It is an absolute non sequitur. The only thing having more money actually proves is that you have more physical currency in your pocket. It says absolutely nothing about your honesty, your psychological resilience, or your true value to the social fabric. So, how exactly are you supposed to interact with all the nice things you might acquire in this unpredictable life? Epictetus offered an incredibly powerful mental framework that completely destroys the modern obsession with hoarding wealth. He said you should treat your entire life exactly as if you are temporarily staying in a nice hotel room. When you check into a hotel, you get to use a very comfortable bed, a nice wooden desk, and a warm lamp. While you are in that room, you should absolutely enjoy those things. But you never walk around delusional enough to actually believe that you own the hotel bed. You know with absolute certainty that your stay is strictly temporary, and eventually, you are going to have to pack your bags, check out, and hand the key back to the front desk so the next person can use the room. This is exactly how you must view your money, your prestigious career titles, and your physical possessions. You are highly encouraged to enjoy them while the turbulent universe allows you to hold them. But you must aggressively refuse to attach your fundamental identity to them. If the economic market suddenly crashes tomorrow and you unexpectedly lose your impressive corporate job, or if a natural disaster wipes out your physical property, you should be able to calmly walk away with your internal psychological fortress completely intact. You live the metaphorical hotel room knowing you are exactly the same strong, capable human being you were before you checked in. When you finally stop desperately tying your entire self-worth to the temporary plastic trophies of the modern consumer world, you unlock a level of profound psychological freedom that no expensive self-help seminar could ever possibly sell you. Now that you fundamentally understand that true psychological freedom is an internal state completely independent of your temporary material wealth, you are probably feeling highly motivated to start practicing immediately. But this is exactly where the vast majority of modern beginners make a catastrophic and deeply counterproductive mistake. They pull out their smartphones, open a social media application, and start blindly consuming this massive, ancient philosophy through isolated, completely out of context daily quotes. You have absolutely seen these posts before. They usually feature a dramatic, high-contrast picture of a marble statue paired with a catchy, overly simplified one-liner. Sometimes these internet creators are so remarkably lazy that they literally misattribute a famous piece of wisdom, like taking a powerful quote from the Stoic teacher Epictetus and pasting it right over a picture of Epicurus, a man whose hedonistic philosophy was practically the polar opposite of the Stoic framework. While this might just seem like a relatively harmless modern internet trend, it is actually deeply dangerous to your long-term psychological development. The brilliant ancient Roman senator Seneca explicitly warned his close friend Lucilius about this exact problem over 2 millennia ago. He aggressively cautioned his friend not to fall into the lazy temptation of just memorizing and quoting random bits and pieces of different philosophical authors. Seneca understood that doing that completely rips the profound wisdom away from its absolutely necessary, foundational background. When you brutally rip a single sentence out of a comprehensive text and use it as a standalone piece of digital motivation, it immediately stops being a highly functioning psychological tool and rapidly degrades into just another empty, useless self-help slogan. You simply cannot treat an entire, comprehensive philosophy of life as if it is a cheap, temporary life hack. Let us use another very popular framework as a direct comparison to show you exactly how this fails. Consider the modern approach to Buddhism. Modern corporate culture has completely stripped the meditation aspect away from the actual core Buddhist philosophy, turning it into nothing more than a superficial productivity hack to squeeze more labor out of exhausted workers. You can absolutely sit quietly in a dark room for 20 minutes, focus deeply on your breathing, successfully lower your physical blood pressure, and then use that temporary state of calm to go right back out into the corporate world and behave like a completely terrible, highly toxic human being. Doing a simple breathing exercise does not automatically make you a genuine practitioner because you might be completely ignoring the core ethical teachings and the fundamental worldview. The exact same rigid principle applies to Stoicism. You can expertly use the dichotomy of control to temporarily lower your intense anxiety before a massive corporate presentation. But if you are using that calm state of mind to deliberately exploit your coworkers or act completely selfishly, you are fundamentally missing the entire point. You are just using a superficial psychological trick. Genuine Stoicism is an incredibly robust, internally coherent architectural structure. You cannot just walk up to a massive, beautifully engineered building, smash a single brick out of the wall, carry it home in your pocket, and proudly claim to the world that you now understand architecture. You cannot just randomly mix and match a little bit of ancient virtue with a heavy dose of modern toxic hustle culture and expect your mind to actually hold together when a real tragedy eventually hits you. You have to commit to understanding the entire operating system. And you have to actively choose to live your daily life in a highly rational, deeply pro-social manner. To truly adopt this comprehensive operating system, you must profoundly understand that it is absolutely not a rigid, dead dogma carved into ancient stone. Modern self-help gurus aggressively sell their customized 10-step morning routines as absolute, unquestionable perfection, demanding that you follow their precise rules without ever asking questions. The original practitioners of this ancient philosophy took the exact opposite approach. The Roman senator Seneca explicitly wrote that the brilliant thinkers who came before us are our teachers, absolutely not our unquestionable masters. They brilliantly designed a massive architectural framework for human psychology, but they fully expected future generations to adapt and renovate the building when discovering new ways of doing things. If you are going to practice this mindset in the 21st century, you are highly encouraged to completely discard the ancient concepts that modern science has proven false. For example, the original founders genuinely believed that the entire physical universe was a gigantic, conscious living organism, and that every single event was designed by a cosmic providence. As modern adults who understand evolutionary biology and basic physics, we know that the universe is actually driven by completely neutral, indifferent physical forces. The universe does not maliciously target you when you get a flat tire on the interstate, and it does not magically reward you when you find a $20 bill on the sidewalk. Things just happen, and adjusting the philosophy to match modern scientific reality is exactly what the founders would logically expect you to do. This profound adaptability is precisely why this framework actually holds up when you experience a massive, unavoidable tragedy. When you are hit by a devastating life event, like navigating a deeply painful divorce, losing your hard-earned career, or watching a beloved parent slowly pass away from a terminal illness, a superficial motivational poster about positive vibes is going to immediately shatter into a million useless pieces. But a deeply realistic philosophy of life allows you to stare directly into the brutally painful reality of human existence and firmly hold your ground. You learn to rationally accept that mortality and loss are fundamental, unavoidable biological requirements for life on planet Earth. You absolutely still feel the profound weight of human grief, but you actively choose to process that massive emotional pain using your deeply trained logical reasoning, ensuring that your temporary suffering never permanently destroys your core character. Ultimately, the singular, defining goal of all this heavy mental lifting is what the ancient Greeks called a eudaimonic life. This roughly translates to a kind of life genuinely worth living. You do not spend thousands of hours practicing the dichotomy of control, writing clinical journal entries, and aggressively analyzing your own daily behavior just so you can magically manifest a massive suburban mansion or become a famous, emotionally detached billionaire. You do all of this incredibly difficult internal work, so that when you finally reach the very end of your physical existence, you can look back at your decades on this planet and confidently say that your time was not wasted. You lived your life intelligently. You acted as a genuinely good, highly cooperative brother or sister to the rest of humanity. And you successfully navigated the completely unpredictable, chaotic storms of the real world, exactly like a strong, fully prepared, and profoundly reasonable adult. It is time to permanently throw away the childish illusion of the quick fix. Stop begging the universe for a perfectly easy path, and finally start doing the vital, lifelong work of mastering your own mind. So, here is the absolute truth that the modern self-improvement industry is completely terrified to tell you. There is absolutely no secret formula, no magical morning routine, and no overpriced weekend seminar that is ever going to save you from the chaotic reality of human existence. You cannot buy psychological resilience, and you cannot manifest a perfectly smooth life, but you do not need to. You now have the actual ancient blueprint for building a deeply resilient, heavily fortified mind. You know how to violently separate what you control from what you do not. You know how to rigorously interrogate your own daily actions through clinical journaling. And you completely understand that your ultimate value as a human being has absolutely nothing to do with your temporary material wealth, but entirely depends on your deliberate choice to act as a rational, highly cooperative adult in a deeply unpredictable world. The only question left is whether you are actually willing to walk into the mental gymnasium and lift the heavy weights every single day. If you are finally completely exhausted by hollow toxic positivity, and you are genuinely ready to start building a robust, reality-based philosophy of life, then hit that subscribe button right now. We are going to keep breaking down these ancient, profoundly effective frameworks to help you navigate this modern turbulence. Go down into the comments section below and brutally analyze your current situation. Tell me exactly one major stressor in your life right now, and tell me precisely what actions you are putting into your strictly controlled left column to deal with it. Stop waiting for the world to magically become easier. Aggressively take ownership of your own mind today, and I will see you in the next video.